Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you so much for dropping by. For anyone who's new, Namu Amida Butsu. That means I take refuge. I entrust myself to Amida Buddha, the Buddha of limitless light. If you're new to this topic or this channel, I suggest you drop by my introductory video. And this is response to a question that I got. Can you explain to me why you believe that calling on Amida Buddha's name is the correct practice? First of all, thank you for the question. Fantastic question. Again, can you explain to me why you believe that calling on Amida Buddha's name is the correct practice? No, I can't, because I don't believe that. And neither does anyone who has really studied Shinrin Shonin, the founder of this tradition of Jodo Shinshu. I don't even say tradition, I'll say school. No one who's really studied that, his work, would say that. And the phrase correct practice is very problematic. Jodo Shinshu actually doesn't have a practice in the way that other schools of Buddhism do. And calling on Amida Buddha's name absolutely is not the practice that I do and that Shinrin Shonin, the founder of this school, recommended. And neither is the practice that Renyo Shonin, who was the second great teacher of Jodo Shinshu, taught. So it's a very common misconception by people who haven't really looked at the material, people who aren't a part of the tradition at all. And sadly, it's a very common belief amongst people who are a part of this school, that that's the practice, to just say Amida Buddha's name. And nothing could be further from the truth. Now, with that said, it's not bad. And it's been very helpful for me to call on Amida Buddha's name. And it's been distracting in some ways and taking me away from the true path that Shinrin taught. And here's why. This is from the Tani Sho, and this is chapter 8. And this is something that Shinrin Shonin said. For the devotee, the calling of the Nimbutsu, meaning the repeating of Amida Buddha's name, for the devotee, the calling of the Nimbutsu is neither religious observant nor moral worthiness. It is not a religious observance because it is not done by his own design. It is not a moral deed since it is none of his own doing, as it springs wholly from the other power and surpasses all self-effort. I say that for the devotee, the calling of the Nimbutsu is neither religious observance nor moral worthiness. Oh my gosh. So what the... It can be hard to understand at first, and I think this next section from Renyo will clear it up. And that was the Tani Sho, that was chapter 8. This is from the Letters of Renyo, first 1-7. So the first part of it is some people came to a place where a Jodo Shinshu temple was, and they said, we heard that faith is really important and has something to do with saying the name of Amida Buddha, but we don't understand. Can you please explain it to us? And this is how the person who was there responded. And this letter doesn't say who the person was, but with this inquiry was made of the man living on the mountain, he responded, without doing anything in particular, but simply realizing that you are wretched beings burdened with the 10 transgressions, the 5 grave offenses, the 5 obstacles, and the 3 submissions. You must deeply understand that Amida Tathagata, meaning Amida Buddha, is the form for saving such persons. For when there arises the one thought moment of faith in which we entrust ourselves to Amida without any double-mindedness and realize that Amida saves us, the Tathagata, meaning Amida, sends forth 84,000 rays of light, with which he graciously embraces us. That is what is meant by saying that Amida Tathagata embraces the practitioner of the Nimbutsu, the repetition of the Buddha's name. Embraces and never abandons means receives and does not discard. We say that one who has understanding in accord with this, this person who has realized faith, this person has realized faith. Then, after all that's happened, after the reflecting on, first of all, our desire for Buddhahood and to escape samsara, second of all, our inability to do that because of how heavily burdened we are with negative karma from the past. Third, the recognition that Amida Buddha is willing and can lift us out of samsara, or at our death, take us into the Pure Land and perfectly give us the gift of Buddhahood. And then this entrusting without any doubt in this message. Once that's happened, Renyo says, then beyond this, we must bear in mind that the Nimbutsu, Namo Amida Butsu, which we say sleeping, waking, standing, or sitting down, is that Nimbutsu, Namo Amida Butsu, said by those saved by Amida as an expression of gratitude for Amida's gracious benevolence. So in Jodo Shinshu, we don't say the Nimbutsu to be saved. It's not our practice. Our practice is to reflect on those main Dharma points I mentioned, our desire for Buddhahood to escape samsara, our recognition of our own inability to do that based on practices, the recognition that Amida Buddha very graciously said that he would save any being who entrusts themselves to him. Then this process of entrusting and coming to the point where we don't have any doubt. And in that moment, it's not so much that we entrust ourselves, though we do, it happens spontaneously. Then Amida Buddha sends forth these rays, and we feel held, and we feel certain that we will be reborn in the Pure Land. Then we say Namo Amida Butsu constantly as an expression of gratitude. Is it wrong to say Nimbutsu before that moment, which in this school is called the one faith moment? My understanding is no, and it's a topic that I'm actually researching on and doing some research on, and it can be helpful. It can, especially if done with this feeling of, I can't do this. I need you, Amida. I entrust myself to you. If it's done with that feeling, it can move one along. But in and of itself, Nimbutsu will not save us, not according to Shinrin Shonin, and actually not according to Shinrin's teacher, Honen. So that's my best attempt to answer a very complicated question. So to summarize, Jodo Shinshu is actually the renunciation of practice. That's the correct practice. The thing is, we can't even do that because we're so embedded in ego. But what we can do is reflect on our goal, Buddhahood. Reflect on our inability to reach it. That's really the key right there. Give up. Let me put it this, and let me keep going. Recognize that Amida Buddha is willing and able to fully save us if we entrust ourselves. Then we give up trying to save ourselves. We give up on the correct practice other than reflecting on these things, and then entrust ourselves. Then we're saved. Then Nimbutsu becomes a practice, except it's not, because as the first thing we read from Shinrin says, it's actually not us saying the Nimbutsu anymore. It's Amida Buddha saying it through us. So that, I hope, is clear. I know it's very abstract in some ways. And so the one other thing I'll say is, if you feel drawn to say the Nimbutsu, say it. I'm not discouraging anyone from saying it, but it's very important not to say it with the idea that Nimbutsu will save me. Faith alone is what saves us in this, according to the teachings of our masters and in this tradition, and renouncing our own attempts to save ourselves. It can seem paradoxical, and it's a lot to take in. So please sit with all this. A beautiful introduction to all of this is Paul Roberts' book, Shin Buddhism 101. That's how a lot of this has become really clear to me. And also be gentle with yourself. I had to look at this teaching on and off for almost 13 years before I was able to finally even hear the idea that it's not the Nimbutsu that saves us, that it's not Buddha repetition. And so my hope is to be able to communicate that clearly to help some people save some time. Namo Amida Buddha. Thank you.